Trying to get into my chair. My bum won't fit. This gets harder because the butt gets bigger. Oh, and she sticks the landing. Oh, that was quite sweaty work there. Oh, a little bit of a upper sweat on my tash. Hey there guys, my name's Megan if you're new here, and if not, welcome back for episode 27 of Killer Weekend, where each week we'll discuss a true crime case and you guys can feel free to leave your thoughts in the comment box below. If you like all things true crime, UFO, supernatural, conspiracy theory and all that good stuff in between, then please hit that subscribe button and I'll be here for you every Friday with our Killer Weekends and on and off every couple of Wednesdays with our Weirdo Wednesdays, where I'll discuss something creepy I've heard. Ooh. For those of you wondering, I am drinking a Disaronno and Coke. Yes, it is in a science beaker. And don't judge me, my dishwasher was on, okay? I will leave a small disclaimer at the beginning of this episode. It does involve details of violent crime, sexual crime, domestic violence, and also suicidal thoughts. If that's a trigger point for you, then please do turn away now. Hey my wee lovelies, I've missed you so much. I know it's only been a week, but I am that crazy girlfriend, okay? Wee bit clingy. What have you been up to? Who you been seeing? What are you doing? I miss you. Me, I've not been up to much, to be fair. I actually went to see the Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It, and yeah, it was a little bit true crime, a little bit supernatural, whole lot creepy. But it features famed ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren, and if you don't know, they were two paranormal investigators. Lorraine was a clairvoyant and Ed was actually involved within the Catholic Church. Just imagine Jin and Johnny Cash, but a little bit more ghosty. That's the kind of vibe they were going for. But yeah, it's a weird and wacky case, that one, and definitely one that I will want to cover at some point, but I feel like I need to do a good nosedive into that. Not that I don't for every other case. I mean, I'm up at 4 a.m. on Reddit. You don't want to be on Reddit at 4 a.m. It's not a good place to be. A lot of scary pictures, a lot of scary people. But anywho, speaking of bizarre and strange cases, this week's case, guys, at several points had me asking, what? Pardon? Are you sure? And it'll probably leave you with one big burning question of, did this man really ask to die? This week, guys, we will be discussing the tragic murder of Robbie Mast. Robert Glenn Mast was born on the 1st of May 1990. He was born to his mother, Doreen Stevens, and his father, Robert Senior Mast, or Robert Mast Senior. One of the two. He also was raised with his brother Benjamin Mast, but at the very early age of around 2 or 3, he gained some new siblings, y'all. It was a Brady Bunch situation. His mum and dad were no longer together, and his father met a lovely woman named Mindy Pendleton, who had children from her previous relationship. The kids met very young, so they were raised as siblings, and rightly so, they were extremely close. His mother, Doreen, and if you hear me calling her Dory, it's not like a Finding Nemo situation, people actually call her Dory. She then moved on with a man named Jean Greason, who was heavily involved within the Christian church. The two actually went on to counsel prisoners within the Florida prison system. So they were all about the Jesus. By all accounts, Robert Jr., who was nicknamed Robbie, was given a really happy and, flourishing childhood. He was extremely close with both sets of his parents. He actually spent time with them 50-50. Upon researching this case, you do get glimpses into Robbie's childhood behind closed doors, and it's really lovely to see certain things, such as Robbie's name and his height etched into one of the door frames in his stepmom and dad's house. It just says his height when he was like 2, and then it goes right up, stopping at the age of 18. Robbie was said to be by his friends a really happy and peaceful teen. He was kind of nicknamed the peacemaker for trying to separate fights, trying to kind of diffuse arguments within the friendship groups and within his family as well. He had a big mouthful of braces, and you can see in his photos, it's just this most radiant smile. He just looks like the most amazing guy, always a good laugh, and yeah, he just wanted to exude happiness and have everyone just be as happy as he was. Unfortunately for Robbie and his big mouthful of metal, this would not last. Robbie was said to become quite troubled in his late teens and kind of fell in, I hate to say it, with the wrong crowd, whatever that means. I think people always mean like when you're like 14 out the back of the school and there's that group that like to smoke the doobies, that kind of crowd. Robbie himself did start to, use a couple of little drugs. He was trying them out here and there. I mean, what teen doesn't? FYI, if you're a teen watching this, I'm not condoning that behaviour. Naughty, naughty. However, his parents' main worry was the amount that Robbie drank. He was highly dependent on alcohol at a very young age, and yeah, they just saw him going down this really dark path that they were not a fan of and they didn't condone. Robbie's mum, Dory, and her partner Jean were highly religious, and they didn't agree with this new lifestyle, this free lifestyle, party lifestyle that they just did not understand and didn't agree with. But he did feel like every time he was drunk, he was letting his mum and his stepdad down, and therefore being in contact with them just became far too stressful for him. At the age of 18, Robbie sadly decided that he wanted to live his life free of judgment from his parents, and he wanted to move out of the home. However, he didn't have anywhere to go, and he wanted to live a kind of hippy-dippy lifestyle, travelling on trains. He wanted to, sleep rough and just couch surf, essentially. His family would have obviously rathered that he had stayed at home and been safe with them, but Robbie didn't really give them a say in the matter because he left without a trace. He never told anyone he was leaving. He never told them where he was going because essentially he didn't even really know where he was going. He just packed his bags and he left, leaving his family absolutely heartbroken, searching for Robbie. During this time in his life, Robbie would travel via freight trains, and he would also sleep rough under railway bridges. He would get odd jobs here and there when he needed to pay for food, and he would really rely on the kindness of strangers. However, in this kind of lifestyle, work isn't always, available on tap, and Robbie knew this all too well, and sometimes to eat, he had to steal his food. On one occasion, Robbie went into a bakery and actually stole a couple of pastries by placing them up his sleeve and under his top. The guy behind the counter obviously saw him do this. He was the only guy in the bakery, and it was pretty obvious he was doing it, and he actually got arrested for this. So it just seemed like he was living kind of a transient lifestyle. However, he did still keep in touch with certain members of his family. He did keep in touch with his stepmom and stepdad and his siblings, and he would on occasion get in touch with his mum Dory, but not as frequently as he did with his other siblings. During his infrequent trips home to see his stepmom, his dad, and his other siblings, and even their kids, he was known to be Uncle Robbie with all his stories. He had all these adventures he would tell them about, and yeah, his nieces and nephews absolutely adored their Uncle Robbie. It was actually said that when, his siblings would say Uncle Robbie's coming to town, they would even say choo choo because they knew that he was travelling by train. Sadly, his relationship with Jean and his mum Dory was a little bit more strained. They said that every time he would, pick up the phone and call them, he would kind of be drunk, or he'd be living a life that they weren't really proud of. So it got to the point where he just kind of stopped calling, and for about a year and a half they never knew where Robbie was at all. He would try and keep in touch as much as he could, but they were just kind of putting him down for not living his best Christian life. Which, are any of us living our best Christian life? I'm drinking alcohol on a Sunday. Ooh, bad girl. In his early 20s, Robbie soon found a little bit of romance on the road. He met a woman named Kate. Kate was a fellow traveller, and she also had big dreadlocks, she had tattoos, and yeah, she was just a fan of this free kind of hippy-dippy lifestyle as much as Robbie was. Robbie was said to be super into Kate and just saw her as like the one. She was his future partner in life. He even brought Kate home for Christmas one year, and all of his family were so happy to see that he was happy. Kate was said to be a kind of guiding light for Robbie. She was a really good influence on him, and many of his family and friends still speak extremely highly of Kate. The two just seemed to have this electricity. It was just natural, and they even sported matching dinosaur tattoos, which I absolutely love. I'm a fan of a stegosaurus myself. But unfortunately, as life goes, it wasn't meant to be, and Robbie struggled with some of his own inner demons during their relationship. This was something that Kate, as much as she tried, couldn't fix for Robbie. Robbie was said to have a darker side to himself. As he got older, he became quite suicidal. He had really dark thoughts about himself, and it got to a point where he would phone his family and they would tell him he had to seek help, which he actually did. He would seek out help by himself. He would check check himself into, mental health facilities. He would visit the hospitals to make sure that it never went too far. Even though Robbie would constantly seek out help for his mental health and, seek counselling, it always seemed that these dark ways would come back to haunt him. Robbie did eventually check himself into a rehab facility for his drug and alcohol abuse, and his family fully supported him on this and were eagerly waiting his release. However, when his family phoned to check when he would be released to make sure they would be there to support him on getting out, they found out that he had checked himself out early and he was back on the streets drinking again. At a house party shortly after leaving rehab is where Robbie met Lindsey Haugen, and once Robbie met Lindsey, his life would never be the same. Lindsey Haugen was born on April 18th, 1983, and she was a little bit older than Robbie, a little bit of a cougar, shall we say, a little 7 years difference between the two. Lindsey grew up in a highly Christian household, much like Robbie, and she said it was actually so strict and controlling, it became kind of borderline abusive. We've seen this before, you hug them too tight, they want to run away. Because of this upbringing, Lindsey decided that nah, mummy and daddy, she was gonna rebel, and she decided to dip into the underbelly of smoking the old Mary Jane. She was involved with the wrong kind of people in school, and at the young age of 16 she ran away from home. She never told her family where she was going, and she was living rough on the streets. Sooner or later she started taking methamphetamines, and that turned into heroin use after a wee while. At the age of 17 she found out that she was pregnant, and Lindsey said for all intents and purposes this was a massive wake-up call for her. She didn't want to be on the streets anymore, she didn't want to be alone raising this baby, and she returned to the bosom of her family for help raising her son. Lindsey wanted to be able to financially provide for her child, and she actually did this. She got a job within the National Guard for the US military, and her parents took the responsibility of taking care of her son while she was trained. The military actually seemed like quite good fit for Lindsey. She quite liked the control and the discipline of a daily routine, and she was very well liked whilst in the military as well. She worked hard, she made friends, and she actually made a very special friend. In early 2013, Lindsey actually met a man who was a couple of years older than her, who also worked in the US military. The relationship itself actually seemed quite positive in the beginning, a lot of texts, a lot of flirting back and forth, but pretty soon the guy seemed a little bit concerned about the fact that Lindsey was around a lot of men all the time. He didn't like that so much. He also didn't like the fact that she would socialise with these men out of hours. Lindsey would say, nothing's going on, these are my workmates, I have to see them every day, what else can I do? But he just wouldn't listen. He would often drink whiskey, and Lindsey said that he could be quite verbally abusive whenever he would drink, and pretty soon this turned into a full-blown abusive relationship in the blink of an eye. Now guys, trigger warning, because this man, no matter what you say about her, but this guy is a piece of shit. So we're just gonna get in there, okay? But trigger warning, domestic abuse, severe domestic abuse is coming on up. This abuse started with, obviously the emotional abuse, which is extremely serious. The fact he would constantly accuse her of cheating on him, the fact she wasn't allowed to wear certain things, see certain people. It then began with, verbal abuse, just calling her nasty names. He did start kind of calling her name calling, and like a normal woman, she spoke back, ladies and gentlemen. She talked back. How dare she? And he turned round and then clipped her in the face. This was the start of the physical abuse for Lindsey, and it only got more severe. Once he knew he could physically control Lindsey, the game was over for him. He actually would have Lindsey crawl over the doorstep when entering the home because she was not worthy to walk in the door. Yeah. Then he would have her crawl on all fours throughout the home whilst chewing his food and spitting his chewed up food on her. He would then pour bottles of beer on her. It's said in some sources he would also urinate on Lindsey when she was on all fours. Not only that, he would kick her if she even tried to get up onto her feet at these points. When Lindsey would be badly beaten and too tired to fight this man back, he would then sexually assault her, sometimes while she was unconscious and bleeding. He literally made Lindsey sleep on the floor of the bathroom like a dog. Like worse than a dog. You wouldn't even treat your dog like this. One day, Lindsey had had enough and she was in the bathroom and she decided that she wasn't going to lie on the floor like a dog anymore. She was going to get out of the bathroom, and he blocked her way in the doorway and she tried to swing at him. He grabbed her hand and broke her hand, and when she was crying in pain, he actually spun her around and put her in a chokehold. He began squeezing tight on Lindsey's neck until she began to lose consciousness. He actually made her stare at herself in the bathroom mirror and said that he wanted her to watch herself die. Lindsey lost consciousness that day, and she said that the last thought that she had was, please Lord, just let him kill me because I can't keep doing this anymore. The man was actually convicted of this assault in 2015, but we all know what that means. He'll be out in 2 to 3 months. Gotta love that justice system. Lindsey herself couldn't handle the PTSD of the attacks, and she was so terrified to even speak to her male friends, speak to any man, out of fear that even from prison or from further away, he would find out and come and attack her. She would find herself drinking heavily to forget the nights of sexual abuse and violence at the hands of this monster. She quit the army because she felt like she couldn't even be around the same people anymore because she wasn't the same Lindsey. It was during this stint of house parties and drinking that she actually met Robbie Mast. She says she found him in a room at a house party. He was completely off his tatas, a little bit of drugs, a little bit of alcohol, God knows what else, and he was lying on a mattress in a house party. She said that there was beer cans all around. Romantic. She says that she looked over and she saw this beautiful face just surrounded by beer cans. Just the stuff of romance novels everywhere, really. Lindsey herself approached Robbie and said that there was an instant connection. I mean, I don't really know how true that is. How can you really connect with someone when they're basically unconscious? But Lindsey said that there was, and she said that she could just see that he was a broken soul like she was too. And yeah, she just wanted to have someone that she could lean on, and she said he was so kind that she knew he would never raise a hand to her, so she felt really safe with Robbie. During their time together, Lindsey said that Robbie would often talk about suicide and the fact that he was very suicidal. She said that he would often mimic like a gun shooting his head, and that was something that he would do several times a day. Lindsey said it was clear that he was heavily depressed, but that wasn't all Robbie would talk about, was it, Lindsey? No, because he would talk about his ex-girlfriend, Kate, quite a lot. The one that got away. When Lindsey would meet up with Robbie's friends, they would talk about Kate too. You know, I love that. Just absolutely savage. No SHITs given. They're like, yeah, we want her back. We don't like you. Lindsey didn't like this. She was feeling really insecure. You know, she was already quite insecure from her relationship before Robbie. And she always said that she got the feeling like she was so in love with him and he wasn't that fussed with her. This, in fact, was the case. He wasn't really vibing Lindsey. I mean, he just kind of liked her to be around him. She was living a very similar lifestyle to him. And yeah, it was just for companionship more than anything. That's the vibe that I kind of got on researching this case. And you know, I feel for her. We've all been there, you know. We've all liked someone a wee bit more than they've liked us. And it's not fun. It's quite tragic, to be fair. But you know what we do? We put our big girl pants on and we get over it and we walk away and find someone worthy. Is that what Lindsey did? No, of course it's not. When Robbie said to Lindsey, hasta la vista, honey, I'm kind of over this situation. I'm going to go travelling because I can't spend too much time in the one space. I think he was just kind of trying to nicely, gently let her down, because it was said that friends thought he was going to go to visit Kate because he'd realised the error of his ways. And she didn't really take the hint. She was like, oh, you want to leave? I'll come with you then, baby. Now, bear in mind, they had literally known each other for a span of 20 days at this point. 20 days. I've literally had sinus infections that have lasted longer. Robbie, being the kind and gentle peacemaker that he is like, okay, you can come, kinda. And probably is also thinking to himself, she's got a car. So if I'm going a certain way to meet up with Kate in Minnesota, then I guess she could give me a ride. But he doesn't allegedly tell Lindsey this before they're on the road. So she thinks they're going on this romantic 23-hour trip from Olympia to North Dakota, when really he's thinking from Olympia and then he's gonna get off. North Dakota is only about a 2-and-a-bit-hour drive away from Minnesota, so it would have been so much easier for him to reach Kate. So the couple set off on this journey, but unfortunately, Robbie would never make it to Kate and she would never see him alive again. In the early hours of the 15th of September 2015, Robbie Mast and Lindsey Haugen pulled into the Walmart car park. They began eating pizza, they were drinking bottles of wine, you know. Oh, I could really go a slice of pizza. Later that morning, Lindsey placed Robbie in a chokehold. She began strangling him for up to 20 minutes until he began convulsing and foaming at the mouth. Once Robbie stopped moving, Lindsey then drove around the Walmart car park for about 7 minutes and then stopped, placed him on the centre console in between the two seats, where she allegedly began CPR. As she was trying to resuscitate Robbie, a policeman came up to the car window, gave it a little knock and was like, "What are you doing there, ma'am?" They had actually been called because they believed it was a drunk driving case, as Lindsey was circling Walmart, sobbing her heart out. What they find when they pull her over in the car park and make her get out of the car is much more sinister, when they discover the body of 26-year-old Robbie Mast laying deceased in the car. Lindsey is then brought to a police station in Billings, Montana, and she is like erratic. Her behaviour, in the interview room is just wild. One minute she's in a fetal position, like hugged up into a ball on the chair, crying her eyes out. The next minute she's pacing, like really, really crazily pacing about the room. Then she's laughing. Then she's being quite intimidating and like standing over the investigator. Definitely a lot going on up in there. Police have one main question for Lindsey, and that is, why? Why did she strangle Robbie? And she shocks them when she comes back and says, "Because he asked me to kill him." Pardonnez-moi? Yes, Lindsey claims that Robbie Mast asked her to murder him. She said that Robbie kept hinting that he wanted to die, he kept doing, the old, and she had offered to give him a way out that would be completely painless. He would go to sleep and never wake up again. Lindsey said that she could choke him, much like her ex did to her. Just saying. Allegedly, Robbie said to her, "We can wait, we don't have to do it." And then the next morning when they woke up, still kind of hungover from their pizza and wine night, he said he could never have expected her to do that. I mean, why would she do that for him? She said that this made her feel kind of bad, as if he didn't think that she loved him enough to kill him. And therefore, she then placed her arm around his neck and began choking him. She said that during the 20-minute struggle, he would often put her hand back over his mouth and nose as she was trying to strangle him, as if he was like willing her to do this. However, there's a few bits that are a little bit conflicting. Lindsey said to officers that she was, instantly remorseful and tried to perform CPR. But babe, you were choking the dude for 20 minutes. You had 20 minutes to think about this. And then she circled around the car park for an extra 7 minutes after he had lost consciousness and stopped convulsing. And then also the fact that she said he kept putting her hand back over his mouth and nose. No, Lindsey, because he would have been unconscious after 2 to 3 minutes. So how does an unconscious man move your hand back onto his face, I ask you? He doesn't. Lindsey's feelings for Robbie were extremely exaggerated in the interview room as well. She was saying that she loved him and she would have done anything for him, and that she would have killed for him, she would have died for him. He was her soulmate, essentially, when, let's be honest, you knew him for 26 days. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Lindsey had only met Robbie 26 days before she stole his life. When police kind of throw curveball questions at Lindsey that she possibly wasn't expecting, she acts very differently. Some of her answers seemed extremely rehearsed, such as the fact that, he asked her to kill him and that he constantly was firing guns at his head, as if that means please kill me. Okay, I do that all the time. I don't want my boyfriend to strangle me. But when they ask her, well, where were you going to put his body, Lindsey? It catches her off guard and she reacts in a really cold and flippant way and says, well, I was just going to dump him. As if you would talk about someone that you considered your soulmate and your one true love and say you were going to dump them like a piece of garbage. It doesn't add up. Please ask Lindsey, why did you do this? What was the reason? And she kind of fudges around it and she's like, he asked me to kill him. No one believes you, Lindsey. And then when they state that they don't buy it, then she hits out with something that leaves them absolutely cold to the bone. She says that she just wanted to see what it felt like to kill someone with her bare hands. The police officer interrogating Lindsey at that time then says, you know, I'm not calling you a bad person. I've not got any handcuffs on you. I mean, am I afraid of you? And Lindsey takes a little turn, stops fake crying for 1 second, looks directly at him and laughs and says, well, you should be. Excuse me? You should be? Lindsey is then charged with deliberate homicide and she does in fact plead guilty. Lindsey is then sentenced to 60 years in prison and she will be eligible for parole in 2030. So yes, literally 9 years away. And I know you're all thinking, that's it, done now, Megan's finished, case done, case dusted, there we go. No, because that's not what happens. And buckle up, kids, because this case is about to get a whole lot stranger. This case is so batshit crazy that it actually featured on Netflix's famous documentary I Am a Killer. Sadly, much to the dismay of Robbie's stepmother, his father and his siblings. They really didn't want Netflix to show the episode. They refused to be any part of the episode because they felt like it was glorifying Lindsey. It comes from a very biased place of how Lindsey is kind of telling the truth and how she's on a path of redemption, and it's definitely not something as a family member I would want to be involved with. But there is two people that are more than happy to be involved with it. In the years that followed after Robbie's death, his mother Dory and his stepfather Gene, who, remember, they counsel prisoners within the Florida state prison system, they decide to reach out to Lindsey and forgive her. They originally have a correspondence which is kind of frosty, but they're just saying that they forgive her as Christians and they want to move on. But then Lindsey writes back. And then they write back and then they start having a relationship, and pretty soon this turns into a friendship. I know exactly what you're thinking. I don't get it either, okay? Dory and Jean start then FaceTiming Lindsey in the state penitentiary, and they have this love for Lindsey. They're not only offering her forgiveness, but they're offering her parental love. They often tell Lindsey they love her. Pre-COVID, they were going to meet her at the prison and hugging her, just cuddling. Robbie's own mother believes Lindsey's story that Robert asked her to kill him, and she performs musical numbers with Lindsey in front of other prisoners for their entertainment. Dory was even quoted as saying that she feels like she lost a son but gained a daughter. No, Dory, that's what happens when your son marries a woman, okay? Not when a woman takes your son's life. Unpopular opinion, just saying. Now guys, this is where I have an inner beef with Lindsey, okay? Because she's on the Netflix documentary telling her story and she's sobbing. But there's no tears. You know how I feel about no tears. Upon psychiatric evaluation, it was found that she was suffering from PTSD from her previous relationship. I'm not disputing that. However, it was also found that she's a highly intelligent woman who's capable of manipulation. Would she be intelligent and manipulative enough to worm her way into the family of her victims' hearts? Possibly. And why, you might ask? Because, everyone, when you're up for parole, the opinion of the victim's family towards you can carry quite a hefty weight behind your release. So therefore, if she can prove to his family that she's changed, she's Christian, she's a good girl, then she could possibly get out at her first chance in 2030. There's a lot of odd moments in the documentary. One is where literally she's on FaceTime to his mum and his stepdad and she starts singing down the phone, and his mum Dory is just sitting there like toe tapping, just yes, sing that, girlfriend. However, Robbie's stepmother Mindy, his father Robert, his brother and his other siblings do not believe in this assisted suicide claim that Lindsey makes. They believe that Robbie was on his way to meet with Kate, his one true love, and he was just kind of using Lindsey for the ride. And when she realised this and realised that her feelings were not reciprocated by Robbie, she snapped and she thought she would end his life. They believe, and also the police believe that investigated this case, that she waited. She lay in wait and got Robbie drunk on alcohol when they were having their pizza night in the car park before the day of the murder, and that she lay in wait until Robbie was unconscious, and that's when she began strangling him. They don't think that he asked for her help. They don't think he wanted her help. Robbie's stepmother, Mindy, was very vocal about the fact that she believes that this path of forgiveness that Dory and Jean are on is extremely disingenuous. She believes that they are actually peddling their own kind of agenda because they work for the church and for reform programs and counselling programs within Florida state penitentiaries. They believe that this is actually to get more publicity for the Christian church. Robbie's family members actually begged not only producers of the documentary but also Dory and Jean not to go ahead with this, and they didn't care. They didn't care how this made the victim's family feel. As long as they were pushing their side of the agenda, that's all that mattered. Robbie was a man that, yeah, even though not a lot of people understood his lifestyle, he was still a human being. He was still loved by his nieces and nephews. He was still loved by Kate. He was still loved by his brothers and his sisters, his extended family. Everyone knew Robbie as this happy, smiley man, and he did have his inner demons, but he was taking steps to fight them every single day. It wasn't as if he wasn't reaching out. It wasn't as if he wasn't checking himself into help centres when he needed it. And definitely it doesn't seem right that this woman took his life and that his family are now betraying his memory by breaking bread with this woman. I'm totally all for forgiveness in your heart if that's what makes it better for you, but they are literally going to welcome this woman into their home if she's released. When I was researching this case, I got a good kind of insight into the kind of person Robbie was and the people that were around him in the months leading up to his death, and definitely he was surrounded by people that loved him. He was known, like I said, the peacemaker, the big happy guy, and he was also known to his friends as Rob Zombie. His friends actually held a memorial for Robbie, and it just goes to show what kind of people they are, because they were all offering each other lifts out of state to make sure they got to the memorial. They were all offering each other places to stay for the night, you know, a bed to rest their heads on. You could just tell this was a real loving community that he was a part of, and definitely he wasn't just a nobody that no one cared about. Robbie Mast was a man who will be sadly missed, and yeah, I think the world's a little bit darker without him in it. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please just give it a big thumbs up from me. I love you all so much. Thank you for all your support, guys. Seriously, it means the world to me. I love you, I love you, I love you. Don't know why I'm singing so much in this episode, but you're welcome. My new album drops on the 13th of August. If you're a first time viewer here and you're thinking, I kind of like you, don't hate you, then hit that subscribe button. Like I said, I'll be here for you every Friday with our killer weekends. And if you're ever wondering what's Megan up to, then please do feel free to follow me, not home or to the supermarket because that's odd, on Instagram at Megan True Crime. I also have a TikTok page at Megan.truecrime. I also have something exciting to let you know. So as you all know, I hit 1,000 subscribers recently. I know, I'm so famous. I just want to celebrate you guys and I want to thank you for your involvement. So we're going to do a cheeky little giveaway. Yes, you heard it, a giveaway. I'm so bougie now. So in this giveaway, I'm going to include a couple of little true crime bits. You can see them here on the screen, but we're going to have our very first official merch jumper. That's going to go to the winner of this week's giveaway. So what I'm going to get you to do, if you're listening, are you listening? Are your ears open? Open those ears. We all know this one of mine is always open because it's so big. So if you like this video, subscribe to my channel and then also leave a comment in the comments box below about what your favourite scary movie is. Ooh, I will announce the beautiful winner on my video next week, so keep your eyes peeled. And yeah, I'm super excited. So my beautiful people, remember, have a safe weekend, lock your doors, don't talk to strangers, and also, have we learned nothing from last weekend? It's not appropriate to sing to people down the phone, so just stop it. See ya! Oh, that was pitchy. Okay, I'll stop.